Today we have the Agrawal, Group Editor for Banking Frontiers, Founder, Director of Glocal Infomart Private Limited, has about 30 years of experience in software development, IT management, IT consulting, journalism, journal business conference production, roundtable modernization. He has successfully conceptualized around 600 events in banks, insurers, and NBFCs. He's taken risk and compliance payments on core banking, security, online marketing, etc. Without further ado, I would like to bring on to the dais Mr. Manoj Agrawal. Sir, good evening. Welcome to our show.
Thank you, Prem. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone who has joined this program. Namaskar to all of you.
Yes, sir.
So,
With the topic that is there on intuition in action, optimizing workplace communication for success, what would be your understanding as being a banking editor there, group editor there, and how you see communication at workplace for success, sir?
sure. It's a very interesting topic and it's a very important topic. Just to clarify, am I audible clearly to everyone? If
Yes, sir,
there's a
you are.
problem?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, it's an interesting topic and it's an important topic. Uh, Workplace has become such a dynamic space that you don't have textbook rules that you can apply. And if you rely on gut feel or instinct or intuition, also you may get lost. So you have to do it right. Any mistakes that you make with your colleagues, with your boss, with your customer, with a potential partner in the workspace, it's not just sharing of information, it's person to person communication that is becoming critical. So most of the customer complaints that come in is because maybe the branch employee or someone on the phone did not interact properly, did not communicate properly, the tone of the message was not there, the interest in solving the problem or giving the required information. There are n number of such complaints that all of us have experienced, have faced. We just wish that the person on the other side was more caring, was more informed, was more interested in what we are doing, and not just treat us like a number or like a robot. So, communications is how human beings interact with each other. And if you go back in history, if you go back tens of thousands of years or hundreds of thousands of years before the language was invented, we still were communicating with each other. Even animals communicate with each other through sounds, through body language, through facial expressions. And just to give you something I learned recently, even the sweat that we give out reaches the other person, and that's a means of communication. Your sweat carries message, the sweat molecules carry messages to the receiver. How that works and what it does, I don't know, but that was something really interesting to know that that kind of communication also exists. Uh, so today's topic, if I want to get into the intuition part of it, uh, I'll tell you a story. Okay, let me start with telling you a story. Uh, so there's a fisherman. Okay, he's selling fish. He has, I don't know, 50, 100 pieces of fish laid out in his shop for everyone to see. And outside the shop, there is a sign which says fresh fish sold here. Four words, fresh fish sold here. So as he's running his shop, one customer comes, buys something, buys some fish, and tells the fisherman, uh, why have you put in those four words here? Obviously, you're selling the fish here itself. It's not somewhere else. You're here, the fish is here, the shop is here. That word here is redundant. The fisherman thinks, agrees, and then he wipes out the word. here. So what remains is fresh fish sold. Another customer comes, buys some fish, and tells the fisherman, obviously you're selling fish. You're not. This is not an exhibition or a display or something sampling that you're doing. There's no need to say sold. The fisherman thinks, agrees with the customer, and then wipes out the word sold from the board. So all we have is fresh fish. A little later, another customer comes and says he also buys something and tells the fisherman, obviously you're selling fish. I mean, I can't see anything other than fish. Why do you have to say fresh fish? Again, the fisherman thinks, agrees, he wipes out fish. So all that's left is fresh. A fourth customer comes, buys something, tells the fisherman, what is that one word fresh doing here? Is it about fish? If it is about fish, I can see that the fish is fresh. It's not frozen fish or old fish that smells or something. Why have this word fresh? Fisherman agrees with him and wipes out the word fresh. So the entire communication is gone. But from the customer's point of view, nothing is gone. The message that the customer wanted, fresh fish sold here, is intuitive. The customer can perceive it. It does not have to be told to him, fresh fish sold here. So this happens a lot in real life to all of us. Uh, there are two interesting lessons to learn from this story. One is, even as I was telling this story, I'm sure some of you would have guessed what was coming. Some of you guessed after I removed the word here, some of you guessed at the point sold. 99% of you would have guessed what's coming. So that is the power of intuition. Okay. Intuition is something that is constantly running in your mind and kind of forecasting the future, telling you what's happening. Second thing you would have figured out from this story that I was telling is that once your intuition told you what is coming next in the story became less interesting. You might have started looking at your phone or looking at the clock or, when will Manoj finish this story? Let's move on to the next stuff. So intuition has done a second thing. First, it has told you what is coming. And if you just told you what is coming and the story is evolving on those lines, then you start getting bored. The intuition raises a signal. This is boring. Do something else. Look for something that's more interesting. You stuff like that. So that's the power of intuition. It can change your feelings. It can, when it does something positive, it makes you more energetic, more vibrant, more caring, more loving, whatever that feeling that intuition is raising. So, intuition is someone within you talking to you, okay? And it's someone that you cannot ignore. Most of the times, intuition is not something that you can ignore. It is a very important person who is talking to you, and you have to listen. In the end, you may decide to ignore, but immediately you cannot ignore. So, uh, let's look at communication. Okay, uh, not exactly communication, but suppose I tell you 10 things to do. Okay, that will make your communication effective. That would be useful. That would be important. But at the back of your mind, you might be thinking, "Oh, these 10 things I can find on Google or ChatGPT or some other tool. Why should I dedicate my time listening to a speaker and uh, get this kind of information, which I can get easily somewhere else?" So, issue is what is valuable is not this 10 tips or 10 pieces of information or 10 insights. It is understanding. Understanding is the most complicated, not the most complicated, but one of the most complicated things that we do. Understanding something can take days or weeks or months. If someone is doing a PhD, it can take years. Albert Einstein, I'm told, took 20 years to figure out this equation E equals mc square. So, of course, that's at a completely different level. But for us to understand something means we really have to spend time. And if you look at it in terms of the brain, typically we'll use hundreds of millions or maybe even billions of neurons before we really understand something. At one level below understanding is knowledge or knowing something. That takes lesser time, lesser effort. Maybe a few million neurons are involved for you to know something, as you do in your daily basis, in your professional life, in your student life, what you've done. One level below knowing is something that we call hacks. A hack for something that you learned, how to get a free Wi-Fi connection, maybe somewhere, or hack for removing stains from some shirt of yours, or a hack for fixing a leak in your faucet. Those are kind of things you can pick it up in a minute, maybe, and it doesn't take so much mental effort. The usage of that information, that bit of hack that you've learned, is limited. So, understanding is very wide in scope, knowledge is little lesser in scope, hack is even lesser in scope. If you look at something even lesser than that, maybe you can call it a tip. Okay, a tip on how to maybe do some kind of trading on the stock exchange, uh, or any other small thing. How to order something through some shortcut on Zomato or Swiggy, all the normal things that you do. So knowledge can be small, very small, like a tip, small like a hack, medium like knowledge, and understanding like the big thing. So most of the all of them are useful in life. There's a place for a tip, there's a place for a hack, there's a place for knowledge, and there's a place for understanding. Tips and hacks are mostly about what, about doing something, about understanding what. Knowledge is usually about understanding what and how. And understanding goes one level higher, it covers what, how, and why. Okay, that why part is very important. It solves it. It gives you a deeper understanding. It makes you more human. Your human intellect, and it's not just like a robot who's. You can program a robot. You can program a machine to do something. Give it some knowledge, and it will do those things. But it may not understand why. So many things, the answer to quality of life lies in why. It does not lie in what or how. What makes us human, that makes us sapiens, is why. And that's why you see all these gurus, whether it's Gautam Buddha or Sadguru or all these kind of thinkers, they have gone into that uppermost level, trying to figure out not just what and how, but why.
Even Simon Sinek's book is about
Humans.
thinking about why, right? So that's a key
Yes.
point of it. Yeah.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
So, why is the ultimate question that a human being can ask? Beyond why, there is no question.
Yeah. And taking cue of yours, this one, there is always question, why should I come to you, right? So why? What is that you offer, or what do you what? do I think you can be of value to me? That why is more important for the business to look at any prospect, right? So even a customer giving an order is because of that why that you do, right? That is more important, is what I think, sir. Am I right in saying that, Manoj?
Absolutely. So what why does is it makes it scalable. If
Mhm.
you know why one customer is buying this product, you can get 10 customers or 10,000 customers.
Correct.
But if you have an answer to what the customer is buying and how he or she is buying, that doesn't help you scale.
Right.
So why is for the strategists, for the consultants, for the CEOs, for the maybe the someone who's funding that company,
Correct.
that the venture capitalist or equity investor will ask this question: why is your customer buying this product?
Yeah.
You're right, absolutely, Prem. You're
Okay.
absolutely right.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
What I want to do is spend some time discussing what exactly is intuition. We
Okay.
all have intuition, we use it, we know when it comes. But if we understand what is intuition, and I'll try to do a quick job of doing that in a few minutes. So, really, it's a large subject
Yeah.
of study. So, we are all familiar with ChatGPT and there's LLMs
Yeah.
and so many variations, varieties of LLMs and what they do. I'm sure each of you who's watching this program has experimented, used it, and some of you are using it regularly.
Hmm.
What does an LLM do? It digests a lot of data and then creates something, finds the patterns in those data, and creates new patterns which are useful, which are meaningful, which are answers to something. In a sense, intuition is very much the same. What is intuition is a subconscious process that is processing all the information in your mind. So whatever you're doing from your the day you are born, whatever you're observing, whatever you're seeing, whatever information is going into your mind is stored somewhere in the mind. 99% of this information is stored in the subconscious memory. Okay. But that 1% or half percent is something that you are consciously aware of. So that, okay, if I go a little deeper into the brain, you have a left brain and a right brain. I'm talking of a very simplistic level. The left brain is like a conscious brain. It is processing information that you know. So something that you studied in geography or law or chemistry or banking or technology, all those kind of things. But there's a whole lot of information sitting in your right brain, which is subconsciously processed. So intuition and many other things, they work in the right brain. So it's a software uh, which is processing information. So any information that is coming to you, maybe when you're driving, maybe when you're preparing a presentation, maybe when you're checking your email, information is going into your mind and the left brain is processing it and you're reacting to it. But also in parallel, the right brain is processing that information and it is looking for a pattern. And if it finds a pattern, if you find something similar, then it will pop up and it will tell you. But it will not tell you that I found this. It will give the analysis of that pattern. So it might give you a warning, or it might give you, it might tell you something like something is wrong, something is fishy, uh, something is being hidden from you, someone is trying to cheat you. For example, when you get a call saying that you won a lottery, someone from Nigeria wants to send you $1 million, or someone is saying that maybe something negative, there's a police case against you, blah, blah, blah. All those kind of fake scams are happening. So, whenever you're listening to some such information, you really don't know what's happening. I mean, whether that person is genuine or not, because you have so little information. But your right brain is looking at the patterns, and if it detects something, it will kind of give you a hint. It may raise a warning, or it may tell you, yeah, this looks okay, this looks genuine. Uh, Is something you can go ahead maybe with if it makes sense to you. Uh, so to summarize, it's a software running in your so-called right brain that is continuously analyzing all the information that's coming to you, looking for patterns, looking for something that is out of the ordinary. If it is something that is happening every day, then it gets ignored. But if something is different, that's when it pops up and gives some kind of comment, some kind of explanation, some kind of analysis, something maybe watchful for you to watch, something for you to watch out for, something for you to dive deeper into, stuff like that. Just as machine learning gets and all LLMs get better based on the more information they have, same way your intuition, it is weak when you are a child. It matures every year as you get older, as more information goes into your mind. Uh, and then it has a richer set of information to look for patterns and to give you alerts as and when required. It's something that evolution has created in our for us, for all animals and human beings and living beings, that helps them survive in situations where the information is insufficient. Where there is sufficient information, mostly you don't need intuition. But when there is insufficient information or the information is something different and new, intuition plays an important role. Let's do an experiment now uh, to understand one more aspect of intuition. So I'm going to ask you two, three questions, and in your mind, you reply to it. Okay.
Yeah. You want me to
So
answer
my
it right now, sir, or I should think and key? Okay.
just think about it.
Yeah.
So first question is, how old is the moon? Okay. Second question, uh, when did, let's say, human beings first appear on Earth? Okay.
Okay.
Third question, uh, why does so when we use EVMs for voting, electronic voting machines, but in this Rajya Sabha election, if you saw, it was based on paper vote system. So question is, why do they not use EVM machines for Rajya Sabha elections or for various other elections? Now, the answer to these questions is not important, but the point is, if you did not know the question, did your mind say, okay, I don't know, that's it? Or did your mind try to guess the answer? The moon, maybe it's a million years old, maybe it's a billion years old, maybe it's 500 million years old. When did human beings first appear? Someone may have thought 1 lakh years, someone has thought 10 lakh years. Someone has said God created man, so God created earth and God created man, so they came kind of simultaneously.
I
So
got
this is
this. I
so
got into thinking where moon. I don't know. So I'll have to think. Maybe I've not researched about it. So I have to think about it. Right. So that's the intuition that I got into. You're right.
so most of the times intuition will give you a rough answer, an
Yeah.
estimate, 1 billion years, 1 billion years, whatever it is.
Okay.
Uh, and that's a intuition does not say I'll give you the correct answer. It
Yeah.
guesses. How does it guess? Because it has this billions and trillions of data sitting in the right brain, and it processes that, comes up with some number. Maybe your grandfather told you a story that the moon is God created the moon. I don't know, 10
Yeah.
million years ago, or you read in some scientific journal something, some small bit of information which you consciously don't know, but subconsciously know. So what I'm saying is intuition is not making a random guess.
Yeah.
Intuition is working on real data which is actually in your mind and coming up with some plausible answer. The point to note is that you cannot stop this answer for coming. If it is coming, your mind will start your in that. Intuition algorithm, that software in the brain will start working, looking for an answer. In a second or 2 seconds or 3 seconds at most, it will give you some kind of rough answer. Or it may tell you, I don't know. That's also fine. But the point is that uh, it's not something you can stop. It's a subconscious process that will go on, that will give you some kind of suggestive answer. And you have something to work with. It's rather than a blank, I don't know. Yeah, something to work with. We'll go into little more details in communication, into intuition as we use it in communication. So, but before we step into that, I think we should understand what is communication. I'm sure you know the answers. So it's a very broad subject.
Yeah.
But okay, there are, I see it as five types of communication. I'm going to let you answer what are the five types. So let me start with the first one. Okay. So one type of communication is one to many.
Okay.
Okay. I would ask you and the team or the audience to guess what are the other four types. So one is one
One,
to many,
one to
four
many,
types.
one to one.
One
Uh,
to one,
yeah. Uh, I think we can say verbal communication is one considered there, sir, or that's not part of a because when I can write to one, I can write to many as well. That comes into those two aspects, right? One to many.
I'm saying let's just look at the numbers point of view. So let
Okay.
me fill it in. One to many, one to one. In between, there is one to few.
One to few. Okay.
One to few, right?
Selected,
So maybe
selected people.
in correct
Right.
10, 20, 30, whatever.
Okay.
Now the other two are little more difficult to guess. Anyone wants to take a guess? Come on the screen or write in the chat.
Post your questions here so we can take them up with sir if there's anything that you want to ask. What are the other two ways of communication? One is one to many, one is one to few, and the other is one on one. What are the other two ways of communication is what Manoj is asking for. Any comments on that? Please post them. We'll bring it up on the screen. Yeah, I think they'll take some time and getting posted will take some time. We can
Take
continue.
it.
Yeah,
I'll continue. So all these three communications that we described are going out. Okay. But one must also realize one is talking to oneself.
yeah.
So one to oneself is a very important kind of communication. That's
Self
when
talk.
you have some really difficulty
Self
in
talk.
talking to yourself. Self-talk. Yes. When you're asking questions
Correct. Okay.
to yourself. It looks very counterintuitive. Why are you talking to yourself? But it's a reality. It happens.
Yes. Yes.
The other fifth type is the reverse. That inner you talking to you, which is intuition.
Yeah.
Intuition is, I'm saying, a kind of a
Maybe giving a
communication.
warning or giving a pointer that the inner subconscious mind says this is how it should be, rather than you talking. That's what we are talking about. Manoj?
To put it very
The fifth
simple,
one.
it is a subconscious talking to your conscious. So there are two
Conscious. Okay.
yous. There's a subconscious you and there's a conscious you. So mostly you
Conscious. Okay.
associate yourself with your conscious you. Okay. Your subconscious you is like a shadow. It's there.
Yeah.
You cannot separate your shadow from you. It's there with you. But it's not the real you as you think of yourself. You think of your conscious you as the real you. But there are certain
Okay.
situations where the subconscious you is very important. It plays a very critical role. It talks to you, it listens to you, it communicates with you. And therefore, we have two new types of communication here. Your conscious you talking to your subconscious you, and your subconscious you talking to your conscious you.
Yeah.
And because this happens, it makes intuition important when we are looking at the other three types of communication. It's not that these two uh, Subconscious and conscious talking to each other are one thing which have no connection with the rest of the communication that you're doing. Uh, they are all one, they're all communication, and hence everything impacts everything. Let's take a
Can you give us some examples on innovative communication strategies and tools that have significantly improved collaboration and efficiency, Manoj?
innovative communication. Yeah. So the most innovative way of communicating is storytelling. Okay.
Yeah.
As a child, you had your parents, grandparents, teachers, whatever, everyone telling you stories. And those stories had the biggest impact on you. Your grandfather may have told you some information about America, but if he told you a story about Ramayana or something from World War II or whatever, some king, Ashoka king or something, that made a huge impact. So, the most impactful method of communication is storytelling. It's a very complicated way of communication. You don't just tell a story. You have to really think. Either you have to know the story and then choose the relevant story for the context you want to communicate. So, whether it's a startup wanting to attract people to join the organization, or maybe it's a merger happening between two organizations, or so if it's a merger happening, maybe they can tell a story about two kings in the past, two kingdoms in the past that got merged. That will have an impact. Or two huge organizations in the past 20, 30, 40 years that got merged successfully or unsuccessfully, as the case may be. So rather than saying these are the 10 tips or 10 hacks for mergers, if you tell that one story, that is much more enriching and has a biggest impact. I can't think of anything that has a bigger impact uh, on bigger impact through communication than storytelling. That Prem is my answer to that question. Whoever is communicating has to come up with a very pertinent and a story with some kind of learning.
So, how do we balance need clear and concise communication with ensuring inclusiveness, transparency within diverse workforce? How do we balance that?
Concise communication with diverse.
I am putting that on to the chat so that you have the question here.
Okay.
Just so that I'll bring the question up. I am putting it there and typing it over there,
Sure.
and I am bringing it here. So this is the
Okay.
question
Yeah,
that I
I can
want.
see it.
How do you balance the need for clear, concise communication with ensuring inclusive and transparency with diverse workforce?
Okay. So one thing is that uh, if you look at the history of communication, that's all started with facial expressions and body language. Then language developed. Then vocabulary. So language is also like one day there was language. It did not happen like that. Language was some primitive sound and then some more complicated sounds. Then you had nouns, adjectives, verbs, all that, whatever you have studied in grammar. Then you have complex sentences. So, the most modern form of communication, that language, is the least native to the human mind. So, what is most native to the human mind is facial expression and body language. So, if someone has to be really clear and concise in communication, then you have to go down to that very basic language that is core to every human being. If you want to express sadness, if something bad has happened and you want to convey the bad news, whatever words you use to communicate, if there is expression of sadness on your face, 90% of the message is conveyed there. and it works across gender, across age groups, across income levels, across whatever parameter you look at. Your face is the most powerful way to
Face
communicate
is the index of
concisely.
mind. Face is the index of mind, is what you are trying to say,
Yes.
Manoj.
In fact, you need not even say one word.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, how more concise can one get with just one facial expression? And that's why emojis are
Yes.
so popular. Emojis are
Right.
popular not because they're cute. They're popular because they convey the message very concisely,
Message.
very precisely. You know that smiling emoji or that sad emoji or that angry emoji means the
Yeah.
same to everyone. It's not that, oh, I'm Japanese, for me a smiling emoji means something else. I'm Koreans, for me it is something else. I'm South Indian, for me it's something. It's the same for everyone. It's a universal language.
Yeah.
So using the universal language is the way to communicate concisely with a wide variety of audience.
So another question which I want to bring up,
Mhm.
I'll bring it up onto the chat again.
Okay.
Uh,
What are the key differences between verbal?
sorry. Yeah, I'm bringing it up. What are the key differences between verbal and written communication, and how professionals navigate these differences for optimal clarity and understanding?
But this is a very important question, very important point you've raised. Verbal versus written. There's a huge difference.
Right.
When you're speaking verbally, most of the times, you don't have to think, it comes automatically.
Yeah.
Like I'm
Yeah.
speaking
Right.
now, I haven't thought of this sentence. It just, as the sentence is being made, it is coming out of my mouth.
Right.
In writing, that does not happen, except when you're using WhatsApp to chat or something. But if you're writing a formal email, if you're making a presentation, if you're writing a thesis, for example, which is like one of the highest forms of writing, one of the toughest forms of writing, you have to think a lot. So the difference is one is thinking and writing in parallel. The written part is you're thinking and then writing. So when you're thinking, you may have 10 thoughts in your mind, but you will not write all 10. You will choose from those 10 and write one or two. There's a filtering happening. Thinking, so let me thinking, filtering, communicating. Whereas verbal is in parallel, it's going on and on and on.
I had one thing, Manoj, while you are telling this. It happens with me. When I am thinking, as you rightly said, I am thinking, I don't have. But when I type that message, I have seen myself missing one or two words and the message goes off.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, that, while you said that point, I thought I'll bring it up there. You I say I am not going to come. Most of the time I would have missed that not.
Oh, okay.
So while I talk, I wanted to say that I no, I'm not coming, but not would have gone. I it become I am coming.
See, your brain thought it correctly. The problem
Yeah,
was the brain that the signal goes through your to your hands, and somewhere some miscommunication happens there.
right,
Because even when you're typing, you're not typing consciously. You're not looking at each and every letter on the keyboard or the phone.
correct,
It's
correct.
automatic. It's happening, and mistakes happen there. So I don't think the mind is to blame. It is the nervous system and the mechanical system that has some gaps.
Okay,
So your question, second part was how can professionals navigate these differences for
I'll
optimal
bring up the question.
clarity and understanding? So it's
Yeah, I'll
simple.
bring up the
If what you're trying to communicate is complex, put it in writing or go through the process of writing. If it is something simple, then use verbal. So that is one way to look at it, simple versus complex. Okay, there's another angle to it. If what you communicate has multiple impacts, so it can have either a single impact, which can be, say, let's say, I want to cancel this meeting that we have, let's say tomorrow. Simple thing.
Okay.
And if it's as simple as that, you can use verbal communication. But if that cancellation of the meeting is complex in the sense that can impact a deal with a client, that can impact a report that you're sending to RBI, or that is responding some query from SEBI, something big and
Yeah.
complex, then you have to use a more formal mechanism, not use verbal. Think about the impact. Maybe you decide not to cancel that meeting and do it online, maybe if not in physically, or schedule it for 1 hour later, something like that. Different things.
Yeah. Okay, I have another question for you again.
Mhm.
So, in what ways leaders and managers cultivate communication friendly environment that encourages open dialogue and idea sharing among team members?
Mm. Very critical. So, very interestingly, uh, if you look at I'm going to go back a little about what is a human being. A baby or a child, you can tell it 10 things, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. But basically, what the baby does, what the child does, is it copies you. If you are doing something as a parent or as a elder brother or sister, the child will copy
Great.
you, so irrespective of what you tell. And that is because the baby's mind is genetic by genes, it is programmed to copy.
Hmm.
That's the human learning mechanism. It is hard coded into the human brain. You cannot avoid it. Everyone copies. So what happens is the same thing continues when you get into professional life. You become a copier. So you copy
Okay.
what your leader does. Okay. Now, for a leader to cultivate communication friendly environment, he himself or she herself has to be communication friendly. The emails
Okay.
that come out from that person should not be very formal, should be semi formal, perhaps. Too informal also is bad, too formal is bad. Semi mixture of formal and semi formal is good. As per the occasion, it
Okay.
is something really serious, that is incident that has happened, then it should be more formal. If it is like planning for a newer party, then it should be more on the informal side. Uh, so choosing the right level of formality is something that a leader, effective leader, does very well. Communicate open dialogue. So that is very simple actually. A leader who listens to his or her people is one that makes everyone want to listen to each other. Okay, that creates much more open communication within the organization. A leader who sits in a corner office and only gives one-way communication is going to create that atmosphere that the people below him will also do that same, be more rigid, more one-way, less interactive. So it goes down to human basics. You copy what others do. So a good leader will sit in the common cafeteria, or there's something interesting I learned. Management by walking around. Have you heard this term? Management.
Yeah, I've heard about this.
Management walking around is that the CEO doesn't simply sit in his office, but he moves around in the office, talks to people in a very
I think
casual
it was
manner.
with Tata Motors or somewhere. I'm not sure, but I think it was from Tata Motors, is what I guess. Their trucks had a lot of issues, is what I understand. Maybe if I'm wrong,
Okay.
please apologies on that. This organization, the CEO or the chairman used to go during lunch breaks to meet the truck drivers.
Ah,
and he used to have lunch with them, and he used to note down the problems that these people have faced over the year on driving these vehicles. I think it was Tata only. So
okay.
one of the general manager or senior VP, somebody who I can refer that on a chat and give you a correct detail. But he was the person who was instrumental in bringing up this truck company to a stage where he had envisaged all the problems these drivers used to face
Hmm.
while they drive on long. And these drivers of these trucks used to travel from the end of Kashmir, from start of Kashmir
Correct.
to Kanyakumari. So they used to drive, and they said while we drive, we did not have this facility. There were no, we did not have an AC kind of a stuff, kind of thing. Nowadays, if you see these trucks are with AC, there's a bed which is there
Mm.
pre-built, and everything that is being customized. Earlier used to only get the shell, and the shell used bodybuilding used to be done by somebody
Right,
else.
right.
It used to come from Tata or Ashok Leyland or anybody,
Correct.
and the body used to be built, and these people used to customize it, but they were not in a position to put an air conditioner to the driver's seat.
Mm.
But today's generation or today's trucks, I've seen one or two vegetable things which comes to hopcoms and stuff here.
Uh-huh.
Those are trucks which are having a cold storage plus an AC for the
Okay.
driver's seat. So he comes and parks the vehicle in Lalbagh, and I see the car AC is running and the driver is sleeping because unloading is taking time. So
Okay.
there are things that uh, what you rightly said is people are willing to get that kind of feedback, do those changes, and make lives better is what I
Correct.
wanted to put across by taking your cues, sir.
Absolutely. The more you put yourself as a human being and not as a position that you occupy, the more people
Right.
will
Yeah.
open up and speak with you. And the best
So I
example,
have another question. I have another
sure.
question which I will bring it up here. What are the common pitfalls to avoid workplace communication? How organization address rectify these issues proactively?
Uh, I think the pitfalls would depend upon, would vary a lot from company to company. For example, a company like TCS versus a bank versus a manufacturing company. The communication patterns, a large company versus a small company, a multinational company versus a purely domestic company, the age of the workforce, how many are older, how many are, what is the percentage of age wise, gender wise. Uh, the pitfalls could vary a lot because uh, the factors that affect the organization's communication platform and communication culture, it's essentially boils down to culture.
Yeah.
uh,
How culture drives the communication is more important, is what you're trying to bring it up, right?
it's two-way.
Manoj?
Culture drives communication, but communication can be used to drive culture. If
Yeah.
you want to
Okay.
change culture, it's not that just that you make them go through a course, or
It doesn't.
write new 10 policies. Yeah. Yeah,
It does
the
not.
only way
Yeah.
to bring out a cultural change is through communication. And not the only way, but the primary way. So I would say it is very context sensitive. Sometimes it may not be the culture itself to the common pitfall. It may just
Mm.
be, let's let's say you're in a business where you had a monopoly and suddenly there's a lot of competition. Let's say you were a Walmart and Amazon has come in. Okay. Now you have to work
Mm. Mm.
totally differently. So maybe your culture earlier was fine, but now you need a new culture. And the earlier culture came with certain uh, earlier communications and culture came with certain pitfalls that have to change. So Again, that's what I'm saying. It's so dynamic that there cannot be a standard answer. But good communications, whatever is good communication, friendly communications, insisting on being truthful, on not hiding bad news. Another problem in organizations is bad news doesn't go up. The CEO will come to know the bad news is the last person, uh, whereas the people on the factory or in the field, for them it's like ये तो सबको मालूम है.
मालूम है.
So having that kind of transparency uh, is something that can be a common pitfall. And again, the
Okay.
best way to is have that what you said in your first question, in the previous question, have an open culture, open
Yeah.
communication system. So it's not just the factual information that needs to go, but the feelings, the intuition, the suspicion, the suggestion, the innovation, all that kind of information has to flow throughout the organization. So anyone who puts
Another que-
barriers to communication is the pitfall. Simple.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Okay. Another question which I want to bring up is here. Looking ahead, how do you envisage the future of work evolving, particularly with advancements in technology and changes in the work dynamics?
Very interesting question. Very interesting question. So if I explain visually, we were going like this for the past 300 years, and now we are going like this. Okay, we're
Okay.
going back. So we're moving in one direction. Now we're
Yeah.
going back in the other direction because of technology. Let me explain. So technology has historically made communication easier, whether it is telegram, phone, TV, radio, whatever, one to few, one to one to many, all kinds of communication. But it made it easier to communicate formally.
Hmm.
Okay, in a sense, Telegram, for example, is the best example. You can send a message 50 years ago.
Hmm.
Uh, I've seen a few telegrams in my life. So, very brief message would come within half a day or one day to you, and so that you can then act on it or do whatever is required. But it was essential communication, formal communication, bare minimum communication. As technology got richer and richer, TV, and now we're getting into all that headsets, augmented reality, virtual reality, metaverse, all those kind of things. All these newer technologies are now focusing on the, let me rephrase, the earlier technologies that helped us go from here to here were focusing on the sender. You can send more, you can send faster, you can send to more people. Now we have reached that kind of saturated. How much more can you send? Okay. But what is happening now is technologies are helping you become a receiver. Can be more choosy about what you want to receive. You can receive it in different formats. You can receive the same thing in different languages. You can convert text to video. You can convert video to text. You can convert Hindi to Malayalam. All this. So today's communication technology is receiver centric. Earlier technology was sender centric.
Understand.
Uh, and that's what any communication leader has to understand, that now you have to empower the receiver as opposed to empowering the sender. And that makes a huge difference. That I mean, it's a 180 degree shift.
Yeah.
Imagine your company's strategy changing 180 degrees. I mean, what could be a bigger shift than that?
Hmm. Now
So you
I'll take
design
one
your
analogy
workplace.
here. What you are telling, Telegram. We used to send a telegram, and by the time it reaches, it used to take time. Then pagers came in. Then we said pager, one message immediate. Then calls came in. Calls were just, I want to speak to you. I picked up, and the communication increased. Then we got into video calls on Skype was the only option that we had at the time. Then
Right.
Skype moved to many other platforms. Then we started coming to WhatsApp. WhatsApp came up to video now. Now everything is on video. Communication is
Yes.
completely on video. And you rightly said at the initial stage, you can see a person's way he's there with the emotions, and you can tell this guy is in stress or he's having something.
Mm.
That's the kind of communication that we have come into today. Uh, Predominant changes, and now we are going back to see how we can manage this communication. It has become over communication, actually
It is.
speaking.
It is.
So there are so many platforms, and one message flies like anything, and there are so many issues that are coming up because of that rapid message spreading, viral messaging coming up into the picture, and that communication has to be relooked at and seen how it is to be taken care for the betterment of the society, because that can create adverse effects also, right? When you're doing such kind of communications. What do you think?
And the biggest adverse effect is fake news.
Fake news, yeah.
We
Now,
are all
what to
aware
believe, what
about
not
it.
to believe is another problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it is receiver centric, it can kind of fool the receiver into believing that this information is correct, that your bank account has been blocked, you have to do KYC, you have to give me your Aadhaar card number and all that. So it's
Yeah,
becoming more convincing as it is more receiver centric. That's a challenge.
with this, we are done. Yeah, with this, we have done with the kind of questions, or we are reaching the
Okay, sure.
time that the event is coming to conclude. With this, thank you, Manoj.
My
Thank you
pleasure.
for being part of the event. It was great having you on the session today. We are having another session on Monday, which is on the topic of adversarial attacks and defenses in machine learning by Sanjeev. He's from the US, and he's part of a cloud service provider company. Lot of insights to look at. Would like people to join us and have that discussion on the 12th of March, Tuesday at 9 p.m. IST. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Manoj. Thank you.
My pleasure.
With this, we will end the session.
Thank you
Thank
for
you.
inviting me, and all the best to all who
Yeah.
participated and listened. Take care. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, Manoj. Bye.